Greetings, programs. This is Jay Mayer, the Tron Guy, and you're listening to the Scene World podcast.
All right, yeah, ready? Okay. Hey, it's me, he's him, this is this thing. How's it going?
Good, like always.
In a minute, we've got Richie Knucklez waiting right over there. And we're going to be talking about what he's been doing, and we're going to talk about some interesting things, some controversies, and some stuff. So that'll be occurring in just a minute. Before that, though, we'll just quickly touch on some things that have been going on in the world. One of which is that we now have our tech interviews up as podcasts in certain places.
Yeah.
So we can't. We're in the process of doing this. We can't give you full links and everything yet.
But what we can tell you is actually the URL to the RSS XML feed, so you can already listen to it on the page directly, which is what most people do, or you can put it to your podcast app. Might it be on iPhone or Android? And this URL is actually a subpage of the sceneworld.org domain, and that's sceneworld.org/history.
So if you were trying to watch this stuff in the car, it makes it difficult because you have to have YouTube open, and it kind of can be a pain. So we've converted it to, well, Joerg, I should say, has converted it to MP3 so that it can be played as a podcast in your favorite player while you're driving or working out or pooping or whatever it is you're doing when you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, because some people asked me if there aren't MP3 versions of the interviews, because they are long, sometimes they are between 1 hour and 3 hours. And these are lengthy interviews because, when pioneers talk, they don't stop. And now you can listen to them in a form of a podcast, even though it's not a podcast. So as soon as we publish the new tech interviews, you can get part of the history and actually listen to them. So once again, sceneworld.org/history, and there you can get direct listening to the things, or hit the RSS feed button and get the RSS feed URL to help yourself.
So,
yes,
so what else is happening? Richard Lowenstein.
Yeah.
You've actually.
Talking about Scene World and other things happen too. The Internet Archive, archive.org, actually also hosted our tech interviews as MP3s. So that would be archive.org/details/Scene World. Also, our podcast is now on Spotify, which is something which AJ wanted since a long time.
Yeah, that's one of the big ends to getting on Spotify.
Yep.
We're legit now.
That's true. So, let's summarize. You get the podcast on archive.org on a dedicated collection page, the tech interviews, and we are on Spotify too, which is number 2 after iTunes for podcasts now. And
do we get statistics and stuff from them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Spotify has statistics, but right now, since it's just 3 weeks ago, we just have it's a slow start.
Well, it gets us going.
Yep.
So other news that is occurring, I guess Richard Lowenstein. Lowenstein.
No. Do it the first way.
Lowenstein.
Yeah, that is what they said.
Richard Lowenstein.
That is what he said the first time, and then you corrected it into wrong.
I got self-conscious about my bad pronunciation, so I automatically assumed that whatever I did was wrong.
No. I don't know why I just put in EYS-EN. That's totally bad. Okay, let's redo that.
I always assume that however I said it is wrong, even if I said it right. It's like, oh wait, maybe that's not right. Yeah, Richard Lowenstein has written his first game review in a long time, evidently. I just saw it on Facebook. He posted he was in Return magazine. And the name the game he reviewed was Worthy. Unfortunately, it's in German, so I can't really tell what he wrote, but But it's there. We'll put a link to that in the description. It's good to have him writing again. He used to write in Amiga Joker, I want to say.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's cool to have him back and doing things again. I mean, obviously he's doing things. He's working on Reshoot R, and he did Reshoot, with our very own Altraz. So very nice to see that. Speaking of our very own Altraz, our very own Martin, who is one of our editors and one of our favorite people in the world, he has a song called Elysium. It's Alan Morris and Martin Drake. Martin being our very own. It hit number 1 on the Beatport Top 10 for Trance.
Great.
That was a couple of weeks ago that hit number 1. It is currently still on the top 10 list as of the time that we're recording this. We'll put a link to that in the description. It kicks ass. Everybody should check that out.
Yup.
Because Martin's pretty awesome, and the music's pretty awesome. So, yeah.
Right. What else happened? Oh, yes. Well, last time we mentioned Farming Simulator, and Farming Simulator is now on sale at Protovision's store.
I thought they were sold out. They
restocked.
Okay.
Which is interesting because, according to the Load Tech interview they gave a few weeks ago, it was meant that the Z64 release was only exclusively in a physical cartridge release if you get the press example. Looks like they made a deal with Giants to actually be allowed to sell it in a physical release. And interesting is also that, the cartridges are made by Jens Schoenfeld. Same like Centurny, it doesn't work if you have certain PLA clones.
Yeah, I've also heard that it doesn't fit very well in the machine. And also, it's not NTSC fixed, so it does not work on American machines.
Yeah, well, what I can say, it fits in my machines, but it took a long time to find a machine where the cartridge wouldn't actually crash. Because, PLAs, many of them have replacements nowadays. And interestingly, PLA, the Monster PLA, I think it was called, from Jens Schoenfeld, right. Super PLA is what Commodore put in the C64C. Yeah. I don't remember right now the name from the PLA that Jens Schoenfeld used to put on sale, but those that were shipped with the C64 Reloaded actually are not compatible with the Epic's Fastload cartridge. So that means, guys, if you have cartridges and you have a PLA replacement in your C64, be careful about the combination of the PLA replacements and the cartridges you want to use.
So you've tried Farming Simulator and it crashes on your incorrectly PLA'd machines. What is it? How does it crash precisely?
Well, it just crashes after the Giants logo, and that's it.
Oh, okay. See, I can get past the Giants logo. I can get to the main screen where it gives you, your title and whatnot. I can look at the credits and all that. I can start the game. The second I move my tractor in any direction, it just locks everything up and just goes.
Well, I wouldn't say incorrectly PLA'd machines. It's just that not every machine you get nowadays has original parts in it, and some C64 board assemblies actually require certain PLAs, and those are hard to find and all that shit. And the early version of 92 doesn't have a PLA. It has a quartz and circuit replacement instead. And
well, it's just a shame because when I look at this stuff, it just seems kind of sloppy that you wouldn't check your game with all that stuff. And I want to support if there's a game that comes out for the 64 that's new, like I will buy the thing immediately because I want to support anyone that's making things for the computer. I want to be able to say that it's a worth it endeavor to create new products for this. because people will actually pay for them, including me. But if it isn't NTSC fixed and it doesn't work on, you know, certain revisions of the PLA, it really hasn't been tested. It seems like it just I can't justify, you know, shelling out $20 or whatever they want for it for something that I can't do anything with.
Well,
and I'm not paying money to buy something to play on an emulator. That's just silly.
Okay. Well, one correction, I was wrong about the PLA replacement for the original Z64 82 model. That actually was a clock generator that those old machines didn't have. They had the PLA. It was a clock generator. Well, what you can do, what I did too, is you can actually take a clock generator from Jens Schönfeld or any other clock generator that you can jumper between PAL and NTSC, and then you would be able, if you have also an American or European VIC chip to go with it, you would get an Americanized or Europeanized machine. But as soon as I took my European PAL machine and put it in NTSC, this way, people were saying that the clock speed wouldn't be correct in the timing, and that's actually true, because some games, for example, Star Toast, which we had in the last issue of Scene World, totally relies on the PLA timing. And since the PLA timing goes with 50 Hz, as here in Europe, you have 220 or 240, 230 volts, depends on how modern your building is that you are in. Games like Star Toast that rely on the clock generator and PLA timing will just crash. Yeah. So it works for, let's say, 99% of games, but not for all games. So
that's probably what the weirdness in the 128 that I had was that they didn't, you know, it swapped over all the other chips, but I guess not the timing.
No, that's not. It's not by switching ICs. It's just that still your voltage has a play in it, and you can't change that.
I know. No, I was saying that the 128 that I had, it was supposedly NTSC PAL, and there was a switch, and it wasn't perfect, but maybe that not perfectness, because at the time I didn't know enough about them to really take it apart and understand what I was looking at.
See.
You know, maybe now, because I don't know exactly how it was done, because I didn't do the work, but maybe they had like two different VICs and, you know, a different timing chip or something, and there was a way that they switched between them. But the PAL was not perfect on it, but most PAL things would function on it. It just looked a little funny.
Just an example, if I play Star Toast on my NTSC SX64, then it doesn't crash at all. If I put it on my Americanized PAL machine, then it will crash.
Yeah, right.
So I guess the PLA clock generator voltage combination of all that problem. But interestingly, most games can handle that. So I don't know what makes a game more reliable on the timing differences and what not.
I don't know.
No idea. But for the most part it works, and that's nice, because especially racing games like Grand Theft Auto. No, sorry.
I don't think that's on the 64.
No, that's not. Sorry.
Not yet, anyway.
Like Grand Prix Circuit and Test Drive, they are 20 to 25% faster on NTSC machines, yes, and that they make a lot more fun than the European releases. Yeah, and as we mentioned NTSC PAL and Grand Theft Auto, we can actually make the perfect switch to the PlayStation Classic. So I got one, and most reviews were destroying.
I saw that.
And here's the thing. Yesterday I saw a review by the nostalgia nerd, and he pointed out that many criticism is only partly right. For example, GTA, Grand Theft Auto. Why didn't they use the NTC version? And here's the thing, it's a British game, so the PAL version doesn't run too slow. No, the NTC version runs too fast. So, in fact, what you get on the PlayStation Classic for that game is the original experience as intended.
Okay, most of the reviews I saw were just saying that the emulation was garbage.
The thing is, it also says that the emulation is garbage in the sound area because, you know, some sounds would have clicking or cut off. The thing is, I never had original PlayStation back in the day. I only got a PlayStation 2 later. I played those games on the PC, so I don't have the experience how it's supposed to sound or look like or control like on an original PlayStation. Because as I already had the games for the PC, I didn't buy them again when I got a PlayStation 2. So that's all I can say. And it's not so bad that they would be unplayable. I personally didn't feel like, oh, the controller doesn't work right or something. And as he also pointed out, most John Q public customer wouldn't notice the difference or bother with it. So it's not so bad that it's total garbage. But the good thing is, as a collector, as many serious gamers in the retro area are returning it, it will become a rare device, and Sony won't produce much more, so it will gain in value. Which is the reason why I didn't return mine to Amazon. I kept it.
Yeah.
You know?
Speaking of the...
you have a garbage truck in the background, don't you?
No, my lunch is done in the oven.
Okay.
The timer's yelling at me.
Okay, I will wait.
I'll pull that out there.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Enjoy your lunch.
Well, I'm putting it in for a few more minutes.
Okay.
Not quite there yet.
Okay.
Speaking of the mini consoles, I have been to quite a few Walmarts and whatever other stores are supposed to be in it. I have not seen a single 64 mini.
Despite there are released since, I don't know, what was it, August or something in America?
There's Atari. There's a bunch of different like flashback games that are there, but not the 64. So I don't know if it's a regional thing. I don't know, but I mean that's a decent chunk of the East Coast that I haven't been able to find it at.
Well, also the problem is, you probably heard it, the Europeans were fine with the 64 Mini, and the American reviewers were putting it to the ground pretty much. As people who listen to us know, we talked to Darren, and it's up to him to make it worthy with the firmware update. I like the idea of the product. I would prefer, if I wanted one, if I was going to get one, I would want the one with the full keyboard and everything that worked. But for your casual, everyday person that wants to go and play some games from their childhood, the Mini is fine, because you don't need to worry about finding 30-year-old hardware and getting it to work and everything. It's just everything's right there, and it can only help to increase the visibility and popularity of everything else that's going on with the machine. Yeah, but the difference here between the DTV and the Z64 Mini that was both by Darren Melbourne, the DTV was more or less bug-free, and the Z64 Mini still has some bugs in it that needs fixing, and that's the difference. Because the 64
Mini is emulation, whereas the DTV was an actual C64 on a chip.
Yeah,
essentially. But the upside is that there are firmware upgrades, and we can, the errors can be fixed as we go along, so it's not like they're necessarily a deal breaker. I understand why the reviewers give it the reviews that they've given, but at the same time, for what it is, it's perfectly fine. It's, it plays the games. I would never want to use it to play a keyboard-intensive game, but, for freaking playing, I don't know, Iridium, is that a game that you just play just use the joystick with? I've never actually played Iridium, so I don't even know what it looks like.
Yeah. So you don't like the OSD keyboard layout?
I've never liked the on-screen keyboards where you have to like move around and select all that stuff. It's just,
Well, that's actually, as you mentioned it, the big advantage of the 64 Mini. The PlayStation Classic will never receive a firmware update, so it will stay the way it is. Yeah, which buckles my mind, because nowadays your photo camera has firmware updates, your smartphone, your decked phone has firmware updates, your TV,
your refrigerator and toaster oven have firmware upgrades.
Not yet.
Oh, I've seen some that do.
Refrigerators? Well,
yeah, we got smart devices and crap over here. They're connected to the internet and stuff. And
yeah. Anyway. So now the world is waiting for the official Sega Mega Drive Mini or Genesis Mini.
It's
because
not yet.
No, it's just the 8 games one.
Yeah, there is a Sega Genesis Rewind that or Flashback or something like that I see in stores all the time.
Yeah, and that's the 8 games version.
Okay.
Yeah. But Sega announced a few months earlier that they want to make their own version. They don't want to do it over 8 games anymore, because, as we know, the 8 games flashback machines had bugs. I mean, they are out in various versions since 8 years, and they didn't really manage to make a version that is not having issues. And the funniest thing is that the latest version that I also have and I didn't return works perfect with NTC US and NTC Japan games, but it has hiccups in fluency with music on PAL releases, which is funny because usually it's the other way around. And we actually will link to that. We made a special on Twitch about that, where we had all 3 machines side by side, which would be the original Mega Drive, the at Games Flashback Mega Drive, and the Tectoy Mega Drive Limited Edition 2017.
We need to finish that, because we never actually quite finished that whole stream. So we were going to do the 64 Mini too.
Yeah, we have 2 unfinished streams that we should continue sometime next year, I guess. Alrighty, yeah. Well, so you would say that collectors shouldn't return their PlayStation Classics?
I don't. See, any little issues with emulation wouldn't bother me so much if I was just getting it to play some games. I know a friend of mine got it just to play one single game, and that game works perfectly fine. And so he's totally happy with it.
But you can get a PlayStation cheaper on eBay used. That's
what people were saying. It would be cheaper to get the game and to get an old PlayStation than to get that thing. And he was like, I don't care. Shut up. You also don't get like the HDMI connection and all that stuff that with the old PlayStation. You're going to be fighting with RCA cables. It's not going to be quite as nice.
Yes, but the PlayStation 2, if you use the PlayStation 2 that is fully compatible to the PlayStation 1, you have Component, which is the predecessor of HDMI, which means you get like 480p, 720 maybe. Depends, of course. So if you want a better experience, get a PlayStation 2 for $30. Get a memory card for 2 for $10 and get the game for $5 or something. Then you only spend half of the money for the PlayStation Classic and have a better experience. If you just want one game, it's funny, interesting that only one YouTuber took the time to do his research, and all the other YouTubers were just like, oh, the NTSC version is always better.
Yeah, well, YouTube, I feel like videos always get more attention, and they do better if it's negative.
Even if it's bullshit?
Yeah, because you never see... You like, if I'm looking at videos, I don't want to watch something where someone's like, hey, this is great and awesome and wonderful. But when it's like a complaint about something, that's when you get lots of viewers. And it's fun to poke holes in things, I guess.
Well, let's be serious. Let's be honest. This NTSC PAL and timing thing is always a trap everybody falls in. I did an interview with Chris Crick, the sound manager of Epix, and I asked him why did Epix first release games and not PAL fix famous summer games, for example. We always have the intro in 20% slower speed. Why? Because they didn't know.
The developers of the game didn't know.
They didn't know that PAL machines run slower. Yes.
That's nonsense.
Well, back in '83 when they started developing, they didn't know. That's what they said. Because it was a new machine and they didn't know.
Man, the intro to summer and winter games were slow on themselves, and then to make them slower by putting them in PAL, that would just be murder.
Well, they didn't know.
And in summer games, you can't skip that thing. Winter games, you can just skip the intro. In summer games, they were real proud of that animation, and you were watching that damn thing through, whether you liked it or not.
I know, yeah. So, anyway, they didn't know. That is what he said. And I believe him.
Do we have more than anything else than that?
Yeah, well, why are you interrupting me today? I wasn't even finished my sentence.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought you had done with this. I thought you were done with the story.
No. So, as I said, it happens all the time. So, another example is Power Drift. Power Drift on the C64 was the only game Activision did that was a PAL release. Funny, interesting story here. Activision UK was only publisher. But for Power Drift, Activision UK was the developer. So it was the first and only European PAL game Activision did on the Commodore 64. So what happened when they released it in America? It plays too fast. What happened after that? They learned the lessons. So they released Afterburner USA, which is a lot better than the European machine version, because that's bullshit. So what they did is they hired Jeroen Tel, who is Dutch and European, and they fixed the playing routine to make all the music sounds right. What happened then when all the crackers did crack the game? They didn't know that the music was from Jeroen Tel and the player routine was PAL fixed. Though that means when the cracks were released, there's not a single crack to this day that plays Afterburner USA in correct speed. So that means the music that is played to be normally too fast on NTSC plays correct on NTSC, but too slow on PAL. That means it plays even 20% slower on a PAL machine, because it thinks it runs on an NTSC machine and slows down the tune. This thing happens even nowadays. And what did happen when Remember released the crack? I told them, okay, you can release the crack again because you made a mistake here. And then no, you're wrong. I'm like, I'm right. And the person who backed me up was Andrew Fisher, because he confirmed what I said. So that was pulled. But you can still get it from GameBase, because it's still the only crack that works, so they kept it in regardless. So it still happens. It still happens to this day. And I think the same happens here with Giants. They didn't know, and the person who was in charge of the 64 version from the Hungarians, they didn't ask. And they didn't test, and they didn't bother. And I guess that's the same story.
Well, maybe Giants will release an updated version that works, or maybe someone will crack it and NTSC fix it. More likely.
Who knows?
It's been cracked 4 or 5 times already,
but if we get a chance to talk to them and essay that in the interview with Lowtech 64, they might do it again next year if the sales are good enough. Then there might be an updated NTC version for the next year. Who knows? So do we have anything else going on? Well, anything Portal D-Make. You tell about it, because it's your favorite game. I actually never played it, so you So there is a C64 version of Portal, the game by Valve,
Everybody knows Portal, you know, with GLaDOS and the Portal gun and all that stuff. Has kind of been, as you said, demake. It's been demade for the C64 by Jamie Fuller. And it's really good. It's not first person like Portal was. It's more of a platformer, but it's the same general basic idea and the same kind of interactions with the bad guys and whatnot. And it's a fun game. It's actually really well done and entertaining. And we'll put a link to where you can download it. There's a PAL and NTSC version.
At least he did it.
And yeah, it's just really well done and fun. It's entertaining. And from what I gather, I've read other people say it's pretty easy to beat. I haven't gotten that far into it. But it's definitely entertaining and well thought out and well designed. It uses a 1351 mouse or your joystick and the keyboard.
I like games with
just like it should.
Mouse controls.
Yes. I found quite a few things that will use the mouse lately. It's.
So what else happened? Well, the Key&A magazine, Key&A Plus magazine in Poland released a C64 version of Tower Rappel 64. Yeah,
okay.
And that was a PC release, you know, with retro style and all that stuff. And after 3 years of development, it's finally released. And the funniest thing is, they on their Facebook page they wrote like, okay, now we have to switch the disc type because now our original discs that we had in stock are all sold out now. That means depending on the color of the diskette you get and the color of the center protection ring, you can actually make out which batch you got. That's funny. So I got the second batch. And one of the later ones of the second batch, because the first ones were white and mine is gray. And as we all know, Verbatim came in different colors. So I'm always finding it nice when companies and publishers care and not sell the games on bullshit branded diskettes. Poland is releasing a lot of great and crazy stuff lately. Well, we had the Power Supply 64 guy. A lot of stuff is coming from Poland these days. It's nice. So, that's all I can say, I think. From my side, at least.
We should probably go over and hang out with Richie Knucklez, who's been hanging out over here patiently, quietly waiting for us.
Hi, Richie.
Yay!
Welcome to the podcast.
Want to hear a real quick funny anecdote?
Yeah.
There's a bar in Easton that I rent arcade games to. So it's sort of like a little mini barcade. And I was there to provide the arcade games for their bar. And a friend of mine that I haven't seen in quite a while, but we've kept in touch on the internet, but he used to come to my arcade when he was young. Zach, how old are you now? 27 he is, okay? Oh. He just happened to live around the corner from the bar, and I asked him if I could, use his Wi-Fi and talk to you guys. The guy that I'm at, 27 years, he used to come to my arcade when we did the Kong Off 1, the first Kong Off. The person whose house who I'm sitting in, they interviewed him on Howard Stern. You ever hear of Howard Stern?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how far Howard Stern reaches. So Howard Stern sent his interns to see the Kong Off 1. So they asked Zach, and Zach is standing right behind me. If I get this wrong, you correct me. They asked Zach, if you were about to approach a kill screen on Donkey Kong, and you had this shit so bad that you were going to shit your pants, would you shit your pants and continue on to the kill screen, or would you leave the game and run to the bathroom? And Zach's answer was he would shit his pants. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
And that aired on Howard Stern.
Yeah, well, Howard Stern is known to be extreme, so that's kind of fitting to the story.
Yeah, but I mean, this guy, I haven't seen this guy in many years, and here I am in his kitchen borrowing his Wi-Fi to talk to you guys.
Nice.
So it's a nice day. It's a really nice day.
Great.
That's awesome.
Perfect condition for a great interview.
Yes.
So it's actually been kind of almost 4 years since me and we talked about how you started with your arcade. But I wonder, how did you actually get into electronics and all that stuff? I guess that started way earlier than the arcade business, right?
I was a singer in a band. The name of my band was Knuckle Sandwich. We were touring the country. I had quit my day job. My day job, I was like a pipe fitter, which is like synonymous with like a plumber, but a little bit more intense than a plumber, like a welder, but for big stuff, like large oil refineries, stuff like that. And I quit my job and went on tour, and we toured the whole United States. Never got out of the United States, but we toured the entire country, saw every single state except Alaska and Hawaii, but all the continental states. And while I was on tour, I saw a whole bunch of different bars succeeding and using different elements. So when I got home, I decided I was going to open up an arcade/bar and live music. And that is exactly how I fell into it, because I had not a lot of money, but I had quite a bit of money saved up by the time we got back from tour. A lot of the songs I wrote did really well on college radio, so I was getting a nice check every month for royalties on our songs. And I wanted to open. I loved classic arcades. I had a bunch of arcades in my basement. And when we got back from tour, I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to own a bar. So bought a building, and in fact, I am in walking distance from that building right now. So
interesting.
So weird, right? I can almost see it from out of my window, the building that I had bought. Well, the building came with a liquor license. Within 2 months of owning the building, a flood came. We are in Flood Town right now. It's Easton, Pennsylvania, and Phillipsburg, New Jersey. A huge storm came, and the building flooded to the point it went up to the second floor. So it was completely awash. The building's still sitting empty to this day.
Oof.
Yeah, it's still, and this is 20 years later, and it's sitting empty. I just went by it. It's totally dilapidated because it's in just a terrible flood zone. Anytime it rains, it gets water.
Wow.
And no one told me that.
Yeah, well, because they wanted your money, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but that is sort of how I came up with the idea to open an arcade. Was I want to open an arcade bar before anybody. This is before Barcade. This is before any of the arcade bars were around. I'm talking 2003.
Wow. Okay.
So long time ago. And then we went and we opened our own arcade without any alcohol, and I had to get really creative because I had to get really creative and do a bunch of contests and just go everywhere I could that there was a convention to spread my, the word about what I was doing, and wound up being sort of first in. So the place Fun Spot was one of the only places around that had classic arcade games, and for some reason the movie King of Kong made them sour on Twin Galaxies and contests. They almost wanted to separate themselves from Twin Galaxies and the whole contest and be their own entity. And it was low-hanging fruit. I just picked it. And all of a sudden I became the place to go to for world records and contests. And I facilitated it. It was almost perfect timing. And then I did a Tron contest. I did, of course, the first Pong off at my place. I did a world record weekend. We did the classicarcadegaming.com contest every year. So at least once every 2 months, I had a big event going that people would come from all over the place, from Mexico, from Canada, from Australia, all over the place. People would fly in from the contest we were in.
Okay. And I wonder, because you said you started out as kind of a plumber, how did you get all this electronic knowledge, and how did you get this knowledge in restoring the arcades? Because according to the movie The King of Arcades, you are known to restore arcades that they look like brand new coming from the factory.
Yes. I don't do that as much as I used to, because right now I wanted to switch over to just not selling the games anymore. You know what it was, is I was finding these games, fixing them up, making them look new, and then when they were going out of the door, I'd have seller's remorse. I'd be like, oh, I wanted to keep that game. I'm never going to find that game in such good shape again. Oh, I wish I never sold it. I could name to you 3 games right now that every day I go on eBay and look and try to find. I just can't find them. I wish I would have never sold them. So I don't want to sell games anymore. I just want to restore them and keep them, and then let people enjoy them at the arcade.
But how did you learn the knowledge? I mean, here in Germany, for example, it's really hard to find people who still know how to repair CRT screens.
I am going to give all of the credit to a man named Randy Fromm. Randy Fromm, if you search him on Google, Randy, F-R-O-M-M, 15 years ago, he was selling a course on how to repair classic arcade games and pinball machines. It was expensive, too. It was like $750. You got a book, and you got a bunch of DVDs. And I bought that and just watched them. I binge watched them like it was The Walking Dead. That Randy Fromm is my mentor. He's the guy that taught me everything.
And it worked.
Not really, but through his books.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I think I know that you kind of had a rough, bumpy ride at some point, because I guess recently you closed and reopened and all that stuff. So it wasn't like a smooth ride for you after that.
It was awful. The original arcade where we filmed The King of Arcades, the Kong Off 1 was there. The guy, one of the tenants that did not like us being there. He was the landlord. He was the veterinarian, and he wound up buying the building. So he never liked me from the get-go. He didn't like the business. He didn't like the kids. He just didn't like it in general. So once he bought the building, I was out on my ass. So now I have 100 arcade games. I got 25 pinball machines. Nowhere to put them. No place really in sight. I don't know what I'm going to do. And a friend of mine who had a building said, you can come to my place, bring everything here. We'll open this arcade in Sterling. So I spent 4 months of my life bringing everything over to his place. On opening day, we took an ad out for the arcade was opening, and the cops came and shut us down on opening day. My landlord did not get the proper permits.
Oh.
He thought he had the proper permits, but he never got the proper permits. There's tons of questions you could ask. How could that happen? I don't know. All I know is that he had assured me that we were all good. And then on opening day, we have over 100 people coming through the door at $15 a head, and the cops shut us down. I had to give every money back.
Wow.
So that was heartbreaking and also bank account crushing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Wow.
So then here we go again. I got all these games. Where am I going to put them? So again, somebody else comes out of the woodwork. I got a building. This guy's named Vince Del Russo. He owns a company called Video Game 911 or Pinball 911. He has a building that's it's pretty big. I could fit over 100 games in there. And one half of the building is now our arcade, and the other half is a video game repair shop. So I'm working for him pay off the rent, and we're opening a new place. So right now I'm doing technician work for 3 arcades. I'm working down at Atlantic City at this place called Starcade, keeping all their games running. I'm working at another arcade in Morristown. Now, this is all in New Jersey within 2 hours of each other. There's like 5 arcades. My exact business model has been replicated by 5 different people within an hour and a half of me, mind you. When I started, there wasn't any in the country. And now there's 5 within 2 hours of me. So I work for 2 of those, keeping all the games running. And then on my days off, I work with Vince, working for him, fixing arcade games while we're trying to get the arcade running. We should be up and running by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And
that's also good.
Games are amazing.
And where is that located?
It's called Denville, New Jersey, on Route 50.
Yeah, I'm just asking because the first time the both of us talked, you said that HA actually could come and stream for Scene World from your place, but as HA told me, he never got in touch with you at some point because you weren't Facebook friends and all that stuff.
Where are you located?
I am located in Jackson, New Jersey.
Oh, I'm looking at you thinking that I'm talking to somebody overseas.
No.
Right down the road. All right. Well, we got to get to be better friends then.
Absolutely.
Well, he is down the road. I'm in Germany.
Yeah.
I know. I want to come to Germany more than Jackson. The only thing Jackson has is a freaking bunch of people going to Great Adventure getting in my way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You gotta hate that.
Oh, it's awful.
It's awful, right?
I've lived here for a bunch of years. I've never actually been to Great Adventure, so I couldn't even tell you what it's like.
I went probably 20 years ago and saw Twisted Sister, and I'm in the audience, and all of a sudden during the contest, this guy next to me starts going, "Wow! Like a rock star," and I'm like, "Who is this guy?" And then he's like thrashing his hair around, and his hair's going all over the place. And then all of a sudden, I look at him better, and I recognize him. It's Sebastian Bach of Skid Row, and he's standing right next to me, screaming every lyric, along with Twisted Sister. And then I guess Dee Snider recognized him and pulled him on stage, and I followed him like we were together. I saw an opportunity. So I followed Sebastian Bach up on stage and got on stage and started singing on the mic with both of them. And then after the song was over, Dee Snider looks over and goes, "Sebastian Bach, yeah!" And they're like, "Who's your friend?" And Sebastian's like, "I don't know this guy." And they're like,
all right.
"Oh, he's got pipes. He's got pipes."
Well, you see, the chemistry already works well.
Yeah.
So if you are ready by the end of the year, I guess hopefully HA can make up some time for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll work on it.
Yeah,
So
be open and you just give me a shout through Facebook and just give me an idea of what you want. What game is it you want to do?
I have no idea. I don't know. We were going to do a live stream from the place and just kind of, sort of showcase everything you got and what's
that's
going
fantastic.
on.
All right, well, let's get that done. Let's get that done sooner than later.
Okay.
Actually, I don't. What are you doing this weekend? Because Billy Mitchell is going to be at the arcade this weekend playing Donkey Kong. All right. Well, I just thought that would be a good one because Billy gets a lot of traffic. He gets like 1,000 people on his stream.
Yeah.
But HA has met Billy Mitchell already, right?
Yes. I did meet him at the first video game con.
Yeah, I'm the one who brought him there.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I saw your live stream, and I said to HA, like, I saw the live stream yesterday night at 3 a.m. while I couldn't sleep. And then HA said, okay, well, this sounds interesting. I could go to a video game con. And then I was like, okay, it's a Kickstarter thing, crowdfunding. And then HA was like, okay, this is too cheap. This can't be real. I'm like, yes, it is real. And then he was surprised how crowded it was on the first video game con, right? You barely could get a parking place.
I did a lot of work for that event and did not get any of my expenses recouped. But the guy, that's why I've never been back to another one. And I brought about, I think, 6 games, and I also got all my friends to bring games. So there was a good like 25 games there, and the guy didn't even give me. He actually stiffed me on my expenses.
Oh.
So that's why I've never been back. I'm not going to say any names, but that's why I'm not associated with the video game con anymore.
I see.
And that's why Billy and Walter have never been back.
Oh, that's hurting, of course. Yeah.
That's why we're going to do our own. We're going to do a competing one after the arcade's up and running. The con-off, of course, is in California, but we're going to get everybody together, all the New Jersey collectors, to do an arcade-based one. I don't really know much about the consoles, but it's mostly going to be arcade. So all of the local collectors are going to bring all their super rare stuff, and we're going to do our own.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So maybe AJ, you can attend.
Absolutely. You know, the first video game con that we went to was it was awesome. There was a lot of stuff going on and a lot of games and everything. And the following ones, and we won't include this in there because I don't want to talk badly about anything, but the following ones just didn't quite have the same vibe to it, you know?
Yeah, he burned his bridges, the dude. He made a lot of money, and he crowdsourced it. And I advertised on my web show. I had a web show, and we made the goal on my web show.
I know. I saw it live. Yeah.
Yeah, live. We achieved his goal on my web show, and that's how I can't understand when the guy rakes in that much money, can't even pay the people that helped him get there. Really hurt my feelings.
I mean, the idea of the crowdfunding was to pay the people that.
Right, that's
happened,
what
right?
under the impression, yeah.
That is what you do a crowdfunding for, though. You can pay everything, otherwise you wouldn't do a crowdfunding, you know.
Yeah, but
crowdfunding is not meant to put in your own pocket, actually.
Let's move on to something good. That sucks.
Yeah.
Well, what else is there good? Well, okay. So
you can ask me about the con-off that we just did one in Australia.
Really?
I just got back from Australia.
Nice.
That's the second con-off in Australia. And there's a guy in the UK that's talking to Walter Day and Billy Mitchell about doing a con-off in London or in England. And Billy and Walter, of course, say, well, that's Richie's thing, so talk to him. So I'm waiting for this guy to call me. He's supposed to be calling me about setting up a Kong-off in England, so that'll be huge.
That will be, yeah. So there's been Kong-offs in Australia and the U.S. Have they gone? It hasn't gone anywhere else, though.
Yeah, just the U.S. all over the place. You know, we went from New Jersey to Pittsburgh, Denver, and now California. So, you know, we're making sort of like a tour. We're doing a tour of the country. After California, the next one after California, I think we're going to Montreal, Quebec. So we're going to finally do one in Canada, I think.
Cool.
But it's growing.
And for anyone listening that doesn't know what the Kong-off is, maybe you can just kind of go over like what happens there and what it is actually.
Very good. Thank you. It's the Donkey Kong World Championships in a nutshell. The first 2 days are a high score competition. Everybody's going for a high score to get a bit of prize money, but the big prize money goes to the finals on Sunday. The top 8 players face each other in just one-on-one matches. So whoever came in first plays 8, 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, and so forth. And bracket style, just like in college basketball. And Robbie Lakeman is our reigning champion. And the Australian Kong-off, Robbie wasn't there. This is kind of hard to get to Australia. And Estelle Gaffinet won the one in Australia. And the year before that, a guy named Shane won the Kong-off in Australia. So Shane, I forget his last name. I can never remember his last name. But Shane and Estelle won the 2 in Australia. And Robbie Lakeman has won the last one here in the U.S.
Oh yeah. I've heard about that. I remember the name Robbie. Yeah.
It's actually at Robbie's house this past weekend.
I wonder, by the way, because you are, I guess, in connection with the original Twin Galaxies thing, how did it change for you all this when Chase Hall took over? Because I remember Walter Day said in 2010, so 8 years ago, he doesn't want to do it anymore and he wants to concentrate on his music. And then all I heard is that it all went a bit strange. People taking over, wanting money for being for being entered in the high scores, and all these strange things I heard. I wonder what your opinion and experience on that is.
Well, I don't want to say again too much negative. So I don't really want to go down that path, but the best I can say is ever since Walter has not been at the helm, it has not been the same. It focused less on what we like, the kind of games we like, and it's being pushed ever since this guy Pete Bouvier got involved. It was pushed towards all the new stuff, like, PlayStation and Xbox. And they want to just forget about the old stuff, basically just brush it under the rug. And the current leadership at Twin Galaxies is like the strongest force ever, pushing away from the old guard and moving towards the newer platforms, which I really don't have anything in common with. That isn't what I do. So really, Twin Galaxies has no really has nothing to do with my life at all. I have never been on the site. I haven't even seen the new site. I'm not even a member of the site. So I basically, for what we do in the classic scene, Twin Galaxies isn't even part of the equation.
Well, I'm just asking you because, I've been following what you were doing, and I know there were some, people hitting against Walter Day and all that stuff, and it always appeared to me that you are kind of the neutral person trying to make everybody happy and being fair to everybody. I remember, for example, a presentation from Mr. Awesome, Roy Sheldon, I think is his name.
Sure.
And I don't remember which game it was, but it was a trackball game. And he said, Missile Command, exactly, yes. And you explained that there were different settings for different trackball sizes. And while all other people were saying, oh, he is crazy, that's bullshit, you were the one saying, maybe he's right, maybe he has a point here. And you were trying to explain it for the audience that didn't understand the technical difference. And that really impressed me, that you could be neutral and not say, like it's bullshit or being negative about it. You said maybe he has a point. So I always found this impressive because I think it must be kind of hard if somebody comes out and says something against your friends.
Yes, and I really try to stand behind my friends, the people that like Billy Mitchell has come under a lot of heat, a lot of heat. Last night it was 3 a.m. and he was streaming Donkey Kong, and I left work. I had an hour drive to go home last night, and when he heard that I was falling asleep behind the wheel, he called me and we talked. He talked me all the way home. Stayed up from 2:30 to 3:30 in the morning just to make sure I made it home. The second I got in my driveway. He's just a good friend. So when all this came out about him, I felt just, I stand behind my friends, and believe me, I know him so well. There is no way he used MAME. He doesn't even know how to use a computer. He doesn't even know how to buy airline tickets on the computer, never mind program MAME to cheat. So it's just impossible. And I know people get mad at me they can tell me I'm blind, but I know the guy good enough to know that it's impossible.
Well, what was the basis of it? It was someone did like a video like analyzing the video of how the screen redrew or something, and
and they said it only could have been made to do that, and I think I could be wrong in this assumption, but I think they used the movie The King of Kong as Billy's submission is what they used as evidence. How could they do that? That was from a movie. Like, isn't there a way that if it's a film being edited that could have changed the way the frames draw? I don't know. I don't know enough about it. All I'm going on, and again, people say there's too much evidence showing that he did. I'm just saying it is physically impossible for Billy to have done this unless he had an army of technical people doing it for him. And if that was the case, don't you think these people would have came forward by now?
Right.
And I know all his friends. I can't think of a single person that's technical that knows how to do it.
Except you, of course.
I know how to do it, but he never asked me. The funny part about it is he's never asked me to do it, but Dwayne Richard has. Dwayne Richard called me on the phone and asked me to do it. Exactly what Billy is accused of.
Oof.
Dwayne called me and asked me twice. In person, he asked me, and on the phone, he asked me to do a smoking gun. I don't know what it is.
But it's not actually how it started. It all started with Todd Rogers, actually.
Yeah, well, again, I don't know enough about the story about Todd, but the only thing I can say is the stuff that Todd did at Activision, the stuff that Todd did in front of all of the Activision employees, in front of all of those crowds. He was like a 17-year-old kid. How could a 17-year-old kid cheat in front of all these adults that know the game better than him? They programmed it. How could that have passed if it wasn't real? The stuff that he did on his own when he was a referee and whatever he did, okay, that I have no clue. I'm not even going there. I'm just talking about the stuff he did live in front of the Activision reps. They took that away, which I thought that was wrong.
Yeah. It's it strikes me that even if you cheated once in something happened and that score is false or whatever, everything else that you've done is still, if you've got the high score for something else, it makes no sense to take it away if you got that legit and then this one over here isn't legit. It's like that's still a high score that still should be there. But it's politics.
Again, I'm good friends with Todd too. I like Todd as a person, so that's why I could have investigated and went on. I just don't have time. I don't have to investigate all that. So I'm actually not very knowledgeable about the Todd situation, other than in person and knowing him for 20 years. He's a good guy.
Well, I can throw in some bits to this story because at this time I knew the main editor of Twin Galaxies online, and he asked on his Facebook page, do any of my friends know anybody from Activision, from the old guard? I'm like, yeah, well, I'm in touch with David Crane. And David Crane was one of the co-founders and even the coder of the Trackster game.
I know David Crane did football.
And they interviewed him, and he said, yes, the Todd Rogers record is entirely possible.
Ah.
And after that interview, one week later, on all the forums and so on, you could read that people were like, no, David Crane is not correct here. I used an artificial intelligence and let the computer play by itself, and he couldn't possibly beat the record, So.
Educate me, because I could be wrong. When they do the artificial intelligence running the game at best, are they using original hardware or are they using an emulator?
I have no idea.
I would venture to guess it's an emulator, because you can't you can't have the AI. It would be an extra layer of difficulty to have it, using the original hardware. This would be more of something where they put the game into an emulator and have the AI handle the emulator because it's easier to get the inputs that way.
Exactly. So knowing emulators and knowing how emulators run different games, if it's not original hardware, I don't see any credibility in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, they said it's not possible by the original source code, the assembler code. But I'm not a coder. I don't know if
me too. Again, I'm not smart enough to really give you an educated guess on that. But again, in the end of the day, the way that they tried to wreck Billy's and Todd's life over this, it's a little extreme. I was getting hate mail, like severe hate mail, for just saying that I backed Billy and Todd. And I only back Billy and Todd because they're dear friends of mine. Like, both of them would take a bullet for me. If I was homeless, they would find $100 to feed me. I just know the kind of people they are. And
well, I didn't want to go down this road so quickly. I just started with Mr. Awesome, but hey. So anyway, my original point was, despite, for example, Mr. Awesome hit against Walter Day, you still said on the show where he had his presentation that he could have a point there. So
I'm actually friends with him. I like Roy Schill. We've spoken on the phone, and he is crazy. He is officially crazy. There's no doubt about it. But he's also a lot of fun. He's a fun person to be around. Like, we hung out for the whole entire afternoon, and I'll tell you what, he's a grip, that guy.
So my question was, it must really be very hard for you, because you are friends with both people and they are both hating each other and hitting on each other. Isn't that kind of making it hard for you? I don't know.
I'm not going to name any names, but there was a girl, a female reporter type person in this scene that I loved. Like, we were really, really good friends, and we spoke almost every day. And I felt bad, but she was getting a lot of hate. A lot of people were hating on her, and she basically made me make a decision. All of my friends or her, because she hated everybody. It was like she was in a war with everyone. So she said, "You're either friends with me or you're friends with them." And I don't let someone decide who I'm friends with. So now she actually even went online and bashed me after being really, really good friends, saying that I'm part of the problem and all this. It really hurts.
So you're really a good person, trying to be fair to everybody.
Thank you.
Well, that was just my impression. Because I was like, oh man, this is crazy. He's totally behind Roy, and he is behind Walter Day, despite they are both, in a fight about Missile Command. Like, wow, this is absolutely crazy. And it's on YouTube. Everybody can see it. So I'm like, wow, So at this point, I knew, Richie, that you are a fair person and you are trying to get behind things, even if it's negative for other people that you like. So I really find this difficult, but I guess you are preferring to go the honest road, even if it's hurting them other people.
If there's, again, I don't have any answers that other people don't have. I'm not smarter than anybody else. I just know what's in my heart. I always go by my heart, what I feel in my gut,
Right. So what's happening now? Are you trying to, re-establish the good old times?
Yes.
I mean, there must be a goal after all this smear stories, I would say.
Well, right now, what drives me is I have almost every game that I want in my collection. I'm missing probably 4 games. There's 4 games that I want. Other than that, I have everything else. I'm totally satisfied. I just need 4 more titles. Once I get all 4 of those, then I'm done buying games forever. I'm done. Keeping all my... I'd say I've got about maybe 300 machines right now. Half of them are in California, half of them are here on the East Coast, with a lot of really good titles that no one is able to play anywhere else. And part of my time is dedicated to John Weeks and the Museum of Pinball. A lot of my machines are out in Banning, California. John Weeks runs the Museum of Pinball in Banning, California. And he is one of my best friends, one of the greatest people on earth, and his collection is so amazing. He's got a couple thousand pinball machines. Couple thousand, not couple hundred, couple thousand. He's got close to 1,000 arcade games. So I donated about 100 machines to him and his arcade museum with the plan to one day move out to California when Faithy's old enough and join forces with him and actually turn his place into a theme park.
Wow, that sounds like a good plan. And when do you think Faithy would be old enough to do that for you?
18.
Well, I don't know how old she is now. So
you don't know how old Faithy is? Shame on you.
I never asked you.
Take a guess.
I guess like, don't know, 13, 14 maybe?
Good guess, 12.
12, okay.
12. Yeah. Well, do you ever watch my Facebook? Do you watch what I do on Facebook?
Yes, but not regularly, of course.
Well,
I'm not stalking people usually.
Well, if you followed my Facebook, you'd know everything about Faithy, because that's really all I post about.
Like I said, I'm not stalking anybody, so probably I didn't follow you enough.
Yeah, not enough.
yeah, but I
picture.
just
see my picture.
Of course, I see. Yeah,
that's Faithy.
Of course, I know. Well, I just took the movie, which I think was from 2011, and added some more years to it.
Actually, right now, this very second, I just got a text message from a guy named Sid Seattle. Do you know who that is?
No, doesn't ring a bell for me.
Sid Seattle is the founder of a group, I guess you'd call them a clan, of people that play video games, like a video game team called the Score Chasers. And he's from Seattle. And the text that just came in right now was, what color does Faith want for her jersey? That was what my text just said. So Faith is going to be on Team Score Chasers.
Nice.
Shout out to my buddy Robert Rasek, a.k.a. Sid Seattle, and his Score Chasers.
So, I don't know. Well, you already said all by yourself. I didn't have to ask too many questions.
It's the best kind of interviews.
I knew exactly what kind of you were looking for, right? I knew.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing that interests me is people say, because I was following, but what people said is that now Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell cannot make any money out of their high scores anymore. Is that kind of, I guess, that they are invited for interviews and so on, and that makes a living for them? It always struck me that that I heard Todd Rogers did this gaming thing for a living as the first person on Earth.
Yeah, that's true, but that was a very, very long time ago. He was a professional video game player because he endorsed a bunch of joysticks. He would get paid to go and play live, stuff like that. But I don't believe he's been paid to be a video game player for many, many years. Now, on the flip side, because of the movie The King of Kong, Billy, because of that the fame, Walter and Billy get paid appearances every single weekend.
Right.
So whoever said that Billy's unable to make money off of his video gaming career doesn't know anything, because every single weekend Billy's getting paid thousands of dollars to go somewhere else.
So you say that all this scandals didn't really hurt.
No, in fact, I think the scandal helped him in many ways. One way first is now the Billy plays Donkey Kong like at least every other day. For the last 6 months, he's been playing every other day. So now he has a chance to win the Kong off because he's at $1,050,000 on average now. He's getting up there almost every third game's over $1 million. So now he has a chance to actually win the Kong off. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I just saw that just a couple months ago. He posted almost over 1 million points.
Yeah.
In a live stream.
His family, meaning his wife and his son and him, were always very close, but I have never seen them, all three of them, this close. The what do you call it? The stress that it took on their lives made Little Billy, he could care less about Donkey Kong a year ago. Little Bill, Bill's son, couldn't even get 100,000. This weekend, he's coming to my place, and he's up around 500,000. He may get a kill screen. His kid. So it made his kid pay more attention to what he does. So it brought him closer to his son. His wife is actually taking an interest in what he does in video gaming, which in the past, Evelyn could care less what he did. She basically just separated the lives. In fact, I think this drama created a better life for Billy Mitchell. In my eyes, that's what I see.
Oh, plus it also put him in the, it put his name really in the spotlight for a bit again, and yep. Everyone wants to talk to him to find out what's going on with it. So that's also,
Yeah.
Someone once said all publicity is good publicity.
Yeah,
so.
They tried to hurt him, but I think in the end they're helping him.
Right.
I wonder how this all started. That getting rid of all the old stuff that Twin Galaxies made big and restarting. I don't know.
Well, from what I hear, I don't know how true it is, but from what I hear, Jace Hall has his own problems financially.
Well, I don't know Jace too well. I just got in touch with him because I wanted to talk with Walter Day, and so far Jace always helped me. I personally cannot say anything negative about Jace.
He is a very friendly and personable guy. He's very likable. There's no doubt about it. He's got a likable way about him.
Exactly. Yes, and this makes me, wonder why now there is this hard reset on Twin Galaxies record breakers. And if you look at how old those peoples are that make the allegations against, Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell, they are in their 20s. And suddenly they are tech experts for old arcade games.
Yeah.
And Atari games, and I wonder how does this work,
Well, I guess if you want a world record and you can't achieve it, the best way is to make the person who has the world record not have it anymore.
Yeah. So your opinion is, just to summarize it, you think that Todd Rogers has his record and Billy Mitchell has his records, and they shouldn't have been thrown out of Twin Galaxies for good?
Absolutely not. That's awful. They made Twin Galaxies. They were the founding fathers of Twin Galaxies.
Well, that also brings up another interesting point with Twin Galaxies, which is that when you look at the world records and whatnot, Guinness pretty much relies on Twin Galaxies to sort of police themselves. And I've heard a lot of people say that it's time to sort of make them not the official scorekeepers for all this stuff. And that if you're going to have a verified, record score, then the record people have to, the Guinness people or whoever it is has to be there to witness it and whatnot and have their own standards rather than just relying on what Twin Galaxies tells them.
Well, that's absolutely true, because we know in the past when that jerk-off, Patrick Scott Patterson, was a referee, he was doctoring the submissions to Guinness. That's why Rudy Ferretti freaks out, because it's proven that he kept Rudy Ferretti out of the Guinness book when he should have been in it, and put his friend and his wife in instead. And that's proven.
Well, nowadays, since the last 8 years, retro is so big that you could find other experts in the field that could work for the Guinness Book of World Records as a referee instead of Twin Galaxies. So it's not entirely possible. It's not entirely impossible to find independent people.
Yeah, there's a guy named Doc Mack. He owns the Galloping Ghost Arcade. I think he's going to start a competing scoreboard against Twin Galaxies, but only do the classic arcades.
Wow, that's new. I didn't know that. Okay.
I don't know that for a fact, but that's the rumor.
Well, one thing that always struck me as strange is I never was able to get a permission to interview anybody of the new Twin Galaxies. Chase Hall always said no, which is kind of sad because I would like to have their opinion as well, you know.
Yeah.
But no.
I'm actually shocked he said no. I thought he would definitely do that interview.
Well, so far it didn't happen. Maybe after this podcast is out, maybe he will change his mind.
Yeah.
So, well, we always try to have neutral point of views and try to get all sides of the story, you know. So that's actually what I would like to do. So let's see what's happening. But I'm very happy that you are very open about it and not bitter, because before we did this interview today, Jay, I actually wondered, can we ask about this topic, or would Richie hit us? You know. So.
Well, most people I wouldn't talk about it with. So AJ's correct in some ways. It isn't something I enjoy talking about, but I figured for you, you know, you've been so good to me over the years.
Well, so that's we got pretty deep in here. It's interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm really happy that you got up your spirit and going on, because especially the King of Kong movie had really some really negative parts, you know.
Oh yeah.
So, and as I don't know if you remember, but just the day after I saw the movie, I had the interview with you, and I was like, oh my God, this person has lived throughout so many hard times, and he's still going on strong.
Oh,
so, wow, you know, and my first thought was, when all these allegations against Todd Rogers and Billy Mitchell started, I was like, oh, poor Richie, he must be really down, you know. So
it's been a rough ride, but we're getting there.
The most interesting part in the movie I found was when you said, like, this is my 102 years old grandfather, and he is doing the spray painting on the arcades.
Yeah, the splatter paint.
Yeah, splatter paint, exactly.
Yeah. He sadly he passed away, but he would have been like 104 now.
Yeah,
maybe
amazing.
Maybe 105, but he passed away at 103.
Wow.
And he was born on the 4th of July. So on his 100th birthday, we had a really big party.
It's interesting for me that a person so old would be working with you on restoring arcades. So he was very interested in what you are doing.
Oh, my grandpa and I were best friends my whole life.
Okay.
My grandpa taught me everything. My grandpa taught me how to use a wrench. My grandpa taught everything I knew was from my grandpa.
Though this movie has a lot of truth in it, right?
Oh yeah, everything's true.
Okay. Yeah, I just wonder, because people say that King of Kong is all fake.
Yeah, King of Kong is all fake, but my movie is not fake.
Let's talk about that. How did it actually happen that they made a movie about you?
At the Kong Off 1, people were filming, but nobody was like filming with like really high quality camera gear, and there was a filmmaker there named Sean Tiedemann, and after the Kong Off was over, he said, this has got to be documented. This is history. What went down here today was history. This is going to be talked about for hundreds of years. Why is no one documenting this? So he asked me if he could document what I was doing. So he just followed me around with a camera for close to 3 years. And I had no input on what he did. It was all what he got on film and what story he chose to tell. My opinion, it could have been a lot better. There was a lot of footage he got that he didn't use that would have been, a little bit more controversial and like crazy and fun. Like I got into a fist fight at the Smithsonian, and I got kicked out of the Smithsonian when Billy and Walter and I were there. I actually got dragged out of the Smithsonian by the cops, and he had it all on film, and he didn't use it.
But all in all, are you still happy?
I love the fact that like we talk to a lot of people that are European or that are or elsewhere in the world, but talking to you, it's like this dude's from Jersey. These are the stories that my friends and I have. Like got a fist fight at the Smithsonian and got taken out by the police. Like, yeah, it's totally stuff we would do.
For my defense, it was St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
So I did have a few beers in me at lunch. Then went back over to do more interviews and then got into a fight.
I have the feeling the two of you will be good friends after this podcast interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted to say before AJ interrupted, but all in all, you were happy with the movie, how it came to be.
Yeah.
Despite the negative parts.
That's a really hard question, especially because I don't know who's going to listen to this. But I am happy with what it has brought me. I'm happy about how people see it, and parts of it make them feel like they can go out and achieve their goals. So yes, that part I am proud of. But I really thought it could have been better, in my honest opinion. I hope Sean doesn't hear this, but I feel it could have been better.
Well, you are always honest in your views, and that's totally okay. And this is also why I was looking forward to talking to you in this interview, because I know you wouldn't make things up.
Oh no, I got so many stories. In fact, I started writing a book, and it's really everything that happens to me during the day is almost every day something crazy happened. So I started writing all these things down. At first, I was going to make a stand-up comedy routine, and then I said, you know what, I'm just going to write a book. So I've been writing things down, and it's called Richie Knucklez, A Fistful of Stories.
Okay, I've heard that title before, similar to that, yeah.
So that's what I've been working on whenever I have any free time. I've been writing stuff down, because really, who else do you know in the world has gotten paid and had a full expenses paid trip to Australia because of the arcade game Donkey Kong?
Only you.
Oh, only me.
Right, yeah.
Come on, give it up. Who else can say that they walked in their hotel room and saw Walter Day levitating in his tighty whities? Walter Day's tighty whities are not real tighty. They're actually loosey. And you know what happens to a man's testicles when he gets older, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen things that you don't want to see.
It's terrible meeting your heroes. And where can people go online to find out what you're doing and what's happening around you at the moment?
TheKongoff.com is our website, but I do most things through Twitter and Facebook, and it's just Richie Knucklez with a Z. RichieKnucklez, as in zebra. So Facebook and Twitter, even Instagram and Snapchat. I'm on those two.
Wow, I don't follow you yet on Instagram. I will change that in a second.
Awesome.
Yep.
And we'll put links to all of that stuff in the podcast description so that people can just go right there.
Cool. Thank you. Also, the website is going to be updated so that it's actually a store and you can buy stuff. I'll have all kinds of merch up on pretty soon. Give me about 2 weeks.
A sexy calendar with Richie Knucklez and his arcade cabinets?
Yeah, sure. I can make one of them for you. All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, stay in touch, okay?
Of
Will do.
course, definitely.
Okay. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.